It's time to stack up the absolute worst, bottom of the barrel, completely horrendous, sorry excuses for video games. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 worst video games of all time. Considering there's a lot of terribly made games, we've decided to limit the choices to games that got a physical retail release. That means any mobile games as well as Steam Early Access games are out. Also, if the game's got a console release, they have to be officially licensed for that system. You got lucky, Action 52. Number 10, Drake of the 99 Dragons. We're starting off with a Matrix wannabe with a laundry list of problems, like its hyperactive camera that seems to have a mind of its own and a lock-on mechanic that doesn't lock on, resulting in the main character flailing his arms all over the place. Oh, in terms of story, the game starts with the main character killing himself. Even he didn't want to play.
Fool! Obviously the undying dragon does not protect him from his stupidity.
Number 9, Pac-Man, the Atari 2600 version. Pac-Man was a huge success in the arcade, and Atari wanted to capitalize on its success with their home console. So, believing that the name alone would sell the game, Atari actually produced more copies of Pac-Man than there were systems sold at the time. Of course, they also foolishly produced an unfinished prototype of the game, resulting in flickering ghosts and painful sound effects. Number 8, Steel Battalion, Heavy Armor. What was billed as the first serious AAA Kinect title became the poster child of bad motion control games. This was a mech combat game that used both Kinect and the Xbox 360 controller, but since Kinect couldn't read your body properly while you were sitting down, which you'd want to do while using the controller to drive your mech, the game was unresponsive and borderline unplayable. It just goes to show you, not everything is better with Kinect.
God damn. That sucked, huh, Sarge?
Number 7, Aquaman, Battle for Atlantis. If anything, this game should have been titled Aquaman, Battle to Endure Seasickness, because the camera makes most people want to hurl on account of its tilting. The gameplay consists of find enemy, fight them in restrictive dull combat setting, and repeat ad nauseum. And don't even think about exploring, because there are invisible walls everywhere with no indication whatsoever. Number 6, Link, The Faces of Evil, and Zelda, The Wand of Gamelon.
You're not afraid of dragons, are you?
Of course not.
Then get my necklace back from Gliok, okay? Pretty please.
After Nintendo decided to partner with Philips to make a CD console, they also allowed the company to use their licensed characters. But Philips instead decided to make their own console, and with the Zelda license in their hands, they released these two practically identical yet poorly made games. The controls were really stiff, environments were made with no foresight, and of course, there's the hilariously awful cutscenes.
You can't kill me. No, no, no.
Number 5, Ride to Hell, Retribution 1%.
Wanna get greasy?
Business before pleasure, sweetheart.
If you were to compare video games to movies, then Ride to Hell would be Tommy Wiseau's The Room.
This girl can do a lot more than just start an engine.
It's not only bad, with terrible controls, poorly programmed bike riding scenes, and endless QuickTime events, but the story is offensively bad, portraying bikers as emotionless killers and literally every woman in the game as an object for unsexy dry humping. Number 4, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Absolute torture is the best way to describe this mess. When playing Jekyll, your main weapon doesn't even work, which is a huge problem in a town where everyone is mercilessly trying to kill you. When you do become Mr. Hyde, your main weapon doesn't even shoot straight, and the game kills you if you progress too far. Mega fail. Number 3, Big Rigs, Over the Road Racing. Over the road is right indeed, as you can literally drive through anything and everything in this game, because the collision detection herein is literally non-existent. And depending on which version you have, your opponent might not move at all, or stop before the finish line to declare your winner. By the way, you'll notice that there's no sound bites in this entry. That's because the only thing you hear is... Number 2, Superman. Commonly referred to as Superman 64, mostly because the developers forgot to put the title on the box art, this game is notorious for riveting gameplay like flying through rings, do a challenge, fly through rings again, do a challenge again. You get the idea. If it wasn't bad enough, the game has an extremely unforgiving time limit and is crawling with bugs and glitches. Before we get to the bottom of the landfill, let's have a look at some dishonorable mentions. Number 1, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. If you know your gaming history, this should be no surprise. Programmed in only 6 weeks to make a Christmas deadline, the game's map is filled with holes everywhere, both visible and invisible, and apparently E.T. can levitate when he stretches his neck. This is the worst game of all time because along with Pac-Man 2600, it almost destroyed the video game industry, thanks to high licensing fees and the thousands of unsold copies that ended up in a New Mexico landfill. There are literally thousands of bad video games out there, so we'd like to hear from you. What was the worst game you ever played and what made it so bad? And for more shocking top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
Oh my goodness,